I think we're gonna call this two nerds and a mic or two nerds and a
Yeah,
keyboard or
that's
something.
gonna be cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I was listening to you talking about your ideas of what you think, your vision of the change of UX and the effect of machine learning and Gen AI on UX. And then I thought like I should talk to Jason. So I would like you to first introduce yourself to the people I who's listening, because I know you, and yeah, like and then we're gonna dig into it.
All
So
right.
how you doing, man?
Good, good. It's been too long, my friend.
It
Too
has
long.
been. It has been. So
Right?
tell us, tell everyone, why should anyone listen to you?
I mean, they shouldn't, right? I'm just like
They
this
should
this
not like that.
person that
Okay, so the first
I
advice
mean,
is do not listen to me.
yeah, listen, like bald people with strong
Yeah,
opinions about
and
software
glasses.
development and product. I mean, we can only suggest things and
Sure.
people need to start thinking for themselves. But we've seen some things, right? I've been doing software for, I don't know, I like saying 5 decades because I started doing software in the 80s. In like the
Hmm.
very last few years, couple years of the 80s, I was there like building my first professional software in Pascal at the time,
Yes,
language.
Turbo
And I
Pascal,
worked
right?
Yes, and I worked on the a little bit on the 80s, like just enough to be able to brag. Then these thousands, and now in the brand new, with all these revolutions going on, I've done all kinds of software, like do military software, healthcare, payments, like before front end existed as software. We only had like that one stack. I've done back end databases, you name it, and I've been doing a lot of front end.
When the software was a desk that you installed in your computer, right? Like Word Perfect and Lotus One.
Yeah, yeah, no, I used to write software that you had to record on a tape recording with a wire from your computer. You turned the tape on, and then the computer started listening to that audio and
Yeah.
then like loading your programs. But I mean, things came a long way, right? Today you can talk to computers and they kind of obey you. In the old days, it was pretty hard to do
I
anything
don't
to
know
make.
about that. If you talk to Siri lately, she goes insane.
But you know what? Siri is feeling very old, right? It's
Yeah,
like I have a Amazon Echo in my living room. I get pissed at it because it feels very old, right?
exactly.
Compared to the other tools I've been using that are kind of guessing what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
They are trying to say the name of the band I want the song to play. It's like Alexa is like saying, "Oh, did you mean like something completely preposterous?" Yeah, I mean, I've been doing front end for a long time as well, right? So ever since the internet became kind of usable by people, the need started to arise when you actually need to write good software. Like I think of one of the first large scale things I built was like in the late 90s, an encyclopedia for American Online back in Brazil. When American Online launched in Brazil, they needed a localized encyclopedia. So me and my business partners at the time, we wrote one of these, and we done that with kind of JavaScript, the very early versions of JavaScript. I think it was even like JScript from Microsoft. Like that was
Wow.
kind of a weird JavaScript offspring that existed on the, and
So
it was. Go ahead.
sorry, so you get this vast sort of at least what we would call historic view of what's going on. You understand what's going on, and you've done so many things.
I
And
would say
then
understand, but
yeah,
I definitely have seen a lot of it. I mean, understanding is hard, right?
yeah,
Because you go
you've
there,
seen
you
so many changes, and now we're going through Gen AI, and I have been posting on my channel videos. I've been just trying to see the impact of it on the development from the platform perspective. How do you build the Terraform scripts? How do you build the pipelines? How do you build the deployments? How do you hook the pieces together? But the one thing that I really liked about your video was that you actually discussed how that impacts the front end or the user experience. And yeah, like I would really like to dig into that. How do you see that impact on user experience?
yeah. I mean, we've been trying to do things from a user centric perspective for a while now. Listen, we found as an industry, software industry, we used to do things the way we could. It's like all you can do, right? I like talking to some of my devs sometimes that the technology is not an enabler of things. Technology is a constraint. No user in any place on earth wants to do a search. They don't want search. They want to find things. They want to do things. The search is all we can give them. We can't read their minds and figure out what they want and then give it to them. I think with Gen AI, we're getting closer to it. Some of these constraints are being lifted, and that's what always happens when technology improves. You want people to have things they need when they need them, and to like be able to kind of reduce the barriers for them to get the things that they want and the things that they need. These barriers are going down, and the number one barrier for people to do things, in my opinion, is like access. Like if you can't get to things because of you only have one arm free, you only have two fingers, you can't see properly, because these things are, not only from a permanent limitation, like a disability perspective, but like for circumstantial constraints have been excluding people from being able to do things for like forever. And I think we're gonna have a revolution on this, because now the tools are so good that we'll be able to allow a lot of people who couldn't have access to products because they were busy or they were doing something else at the same time, will now be able to buy things and like be able to keep track of things, this type of thing, right? So for Gen AI is a way for us to give increasing levels of intelligence to the interface between our systems and the people. That was long-winded. Huh?
Yeah, so no, it's not long-winded, but I think if I don't know if I understood you correctly, like if I try to rephrase what you say just to make sure that I got it. You're saying that people needed to do things and computers had ways of doing things. The computer has a specific way of doing things. And what we did, we implemented it in the computer way, and then we taught the human how to use the computer. So you want to pay your bill? Here is what you do. You log in, you use a user ID and password, and then you click on that menu item and find the three dots and go to the item called billing, or and then click on the billing and then enter your bill information, right? And then we moved from there and we said, oh no, we want to be user friendly. So how do we want our definition of user friendly was find an icon that looks like billing, so the user does not need to read a manual. So when they open the thing, they see something that if I click on that, it's billing. And like any draconian regime, I think we have subjected our users to the point where they accepted certain things. Like all users, when they see that icon, the desk icon, they know that's save. Although there are no more desks, by the way. Like it's funny, that icon is a floppy disk that most millennials don't even know what that is. But they know this icon means save and that icon means exit and things like that. And okay means okay. So there was that phase. And now we're maybe going into a new phase, you're saying? Like, what would that look like? How would that be?
I don't think it's as much as a change in nature as it is a radical jump in the quality of the things we need to do. Having things built is always an exercise in evaluating costs, right? So you can't just change the way your house is built. You need to think a way to renovate it in a way that has a relationship with the way it was built before. Software is kind of the same. There's a lot of foundational elements that you need to respect to be able to build. Usually those foundational elements are put in place by the constraints of cost at the time. So you decide, oh, do I put marble in all my floors? That's going to cost a fortune, so let's not do that. Let's go to somewhere else. And then sometimes costs change radically, and now marble costs like peanuts. And you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to put marble everywhere. And then, but you need to destroy the entire house to be able to do that. Maybe that's a bad metaphor, but I mean, that's the idea for software, right? You go there, you kind of are always kind of doing like improvements, tiny improvements here and there, and trying to make things slightly more whatever you're trying to do. And then at some time the costs change. Like then at some point the costs change, and you go, you know what, let's take this whole thing down and rethink, because that thing we wanted to do that was completely impossible, we would never be able to do, we can do it now. So I think there's a lot of this that's gonna start happening when we see, and there's multiple levels of this that are already possible that we are not doing. So we're gonna see a lot of these things happening very shortly, and there are things in the future that are very close that are also gonna change a lot of how we think about these things.
So give me an example. Like, what would be an example of something that was very costly, very hard to do before, that we can do now? And then like I want to frame that in the frame of like when I look at cloud computing, we could not just get a database server up and running. If you wanted to get a server up and running, people our age, and you work for an enterprise, you go for an RFP, and then you send it out to Dell and Hewlett Packard and the things to get the machine, and you have architects deciding the size of the machine. And then you go to procurement, and then you buy the machine, and another RFP at the same time to Oracle and Informix and IBM to see who's going to provide that, and Microsoft, God forbid, and get like all the like how much I'm gonna pay for that, and then get the machine delivered and wire it and connect it and get a network engineer to make sure that it's pinging and install Linux on it, and then put like install the software and configure the license. And by the way, this is why we call it production, because it was a production. It was like, it's the word production. Like, you don't use the word production for something that is simple. And now you can just write a script like Terraform and run it in 10 minutes and have the thing up and running and turn it off whenever you're done. So there were things that we could, so that had an effect. Like we could not think of something like CQRS, like the command query separation, responsibility separation. You cannot have thought of that pattern before cloud. Like it was not applicable before cloud. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense, right? Now it's applicable, and now you get fast responses because of that. Okay. So what would be like an example of something that just not easy to do, impossible to do, very expensive to do before, like Gen AI, that you're starting to see this is now doable?
Well, there's a lot of, Gen AI is very famous for being able to translate whatever evaluation, whatever circumstances, whatever particular makeup of the information you want to communicate in human text, right? That would be very hard to do in the old days, because you had to come up with all possibilities. Like imagine you have like 100 million people visiting your website. You will have to get all the combinations of what could be happening to them to be able to produce the text up front, depending on which levers are being pulled. Oh yeah, they want this product for winter. All this personalization that needed to happen for those users. You needed to kind of pre-plan it to be able to do it in a timely manner. Today you can do this on the fly. It costs you a little bit, but I mean, AI is only expensive for post-cloud computing prices, right?
I understand that. So you're saying understanding user like asks, like instead of having a pull down menu and a file and save and billing, you're saying the client can now just say, I want to pay my bill, and then the software
both ways, right? Both ways. You can at the same time understand what they're saying. If you give them a form with 75 controls to figure out where they live, I mean, odds forbid you ask them for their street name first, and then the city, and then the province, and then the postal code.
Okay.
You can start doing things like, with what do I already know? Let me ask them if they have something to say about where do they live. They can tell me close to the Rogers Center.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
things like this, and you can narrow it down, and then you can decide what you're gonna ask next on the fly for that person, like to grab that. Not saying you're gonna do this for this particular use case, right? But this is now absolutely feasible, right? In the realm of possibilities of depending on the problem you have.
And
Not only this, but you can, for example, cater your communication to that user. So how are you gonna tell a baby boomer that this product is out of stock or that this thing is
so
invalid?
you think like the personality of the app interface can change. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's very interesting. So you're saying the app will behave differently depending on the
Exactly.
personality. So the app starts to do like mimicking, like sort of like I become. That's very cute.
Yes.
I like that.
It's like
I like
you can even like decide the things, like you know that the myth, I hope it's a myth, people have that your phone is listening to you, so when you talk about a camera,
It's not a mess.
suddenly you
It
start
happened.
seeing,
It happened so many times. I can't
right?
tell
It's
you.
like one of the reasons this happened, people have this impression so strongly, is that we have an insane amount of data about people's behaviors on the front end analytics. Like, when people slowed down their scroll speed on things, like for a fraction of a second, they stopped scrolling when they saw. I do this with Star Trek.
So they're not listening?
Listen, they could be listening, but that would be expensive. It's much cheaper to just look at the cookies and to look at the analytics of things people visit.
Wait, I gotta go to my wife, honey. You're okay. Zuckerberg is not listening.
Right?
It's baffling because you know, like you said, a lot of people had that experience.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But people can detect your preferences by very subtle things, right? Sometimes they use it for evil and trying to shove things in your face and trying to sell you stuff you don't need. But like Star Trek ships, sometimes they do it for good. Like, you can, for example, detect when the position of your buttons are just not working for people, or like the certain demographics have difficulty understanding and correcting their behavior in your application. You can now just go there and start catering to specialized communication ways to help them out.
See, that's interesting. See, I think I didn't think of that, and I'm glad you're talking about it because it's kind of interesting. It's like this is like a new way of UX that knows, like, you know, our parents' generation has a preference. My mom's still around and your dad is still around. Like, our parents will have a way of doing things that is different than us, and we are different, I guess, than millennials and Gen Zs and, you know, everyone else.
Yeah,
That's
that's the Gen Alphas are also a fantastic example, right? They are born in the era of micro content. That it's sometimes for us
It's
that
very
have been doing
hard to
software,
convince my son to watch anything longer than 30 seconds. It is
right? It's like the attention spans are like minimal. I mean, they can be bigger, but
this is a different conversation, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I try not to be an old man who says the world is going to end every time I see something that I don't like, because that's an old man argument, and I'm aware of that. But it's kind of weird.
It is, and I think one of the things that usually hit me very strongly about it is music, right? Because this type of interaction with users creates certain forces in markets. So you kind of start building short content. If you're probably not gonna see a lot of Pink Floyd songs making the top 10 because like not a 20-minute album tracks.
If you're listening, like, I think one of our earliest interactions, Jason, many years ago, is I sort of admired your meta view on things. Like, you always looked at things like two steps out, and I admired your, like, what I call the philosophical approach to thing, right? Like, the barefooted philosophers kind of thing. And you and me come from like, I come from Egypt, you come from Brazil. So we come from countries that has like sort of barefooted, poor reputation, but very philosophical. Like people like to think about things and read. And when what you say about music actually is true and funny because you're saying Pink Floyd is now too long for the new generation. But if you were born in the 60s or 70s, your parents, and that is mostly common for people who grew up outside North America, the normal form of music was ours. Like my dad's singers, my mom's singers, it's a 2 hour, not concert, it's a 2 hour song. Like the song is 2 hour, the intro is 15 minutes. So when I would be listening to like Michael Jackson and My Generation and Alphaville and you know and Duran Duran and all these guys and Elton John and George Michael, Whitney Houston, and my parents are like, this is too short. What is this 3 to 4 minutes? And now we do it to 30 seconds.
Yeah, if that much, right?
If the,
I mean,
and
it's not that the length bears any relationship with the quality of the thing, but it
no,
is
no, no,
it's not the only dimension you're looking at. Like
no.
you're looking
I'm
at
not.
trying to look at how the forces will now shape
Yeah,
the production,
yeah.
right? So
Without passing
when you're
judgment,
producing a song,
we're not saying we're better because we're no. We're just saying it is what it is. And you're
yeah,
saying that the UX now can shape the user experience based on that,
yeah,
which is
and
pretty
and now you need to obey the forces that the market is presenting you if you want to be mainstream. You can still do your 20-minute songs. It's not a problem, right? It's like it's just that you're probably gonna have to do it in a very purposeful way, and you're gonna probably be very niche.
Do you see that in your work professionally? Like, have you seen, or is it too early? Like, have you seen the forces shifting sort of like requirements for UX yet? Or we still too early
Yes,
in the game?
I think that the people have a fantastic saying these days that is like that some companies are still in the past. So now we say that this company is still in February or this it's things are changing so fast that solutions.
If somebody is in February in software development, like I don't know about companies and business, but in software development, if you're in February, you're in trouble. I gotta tell you. Like
Yeah, this
Ahmed,
this
February
this
Ahmed
year
Khalifa is not good.
more than any of the previous years I've seen, right? There's like things I have solutioned things for clients 6 months ago.
Yeah.
That solution is no longer the best, right? The best way of doing things. Like I'll solve it in a completely different manner, like for image generation,
Like
other
like
things like
like in February, you
identity
didn't have
recognition.
Cursor AI, you didn't play with Aider, you didn't have Sonnet 3.5, the new Sonnet 3.5, you didn't have on. I don't know if you had access to 4, you were like very advanced, you had to had like
Yep.
specific, like it was a completely different world, fully.
And that creates a very interesting phenomenon. Like some software, some AI driven software you use now, you're gonna grab the software, try to do things with it. It's gonna work nicely with your little demo, but it will not scale. Like you will introduce too many, because the problem with like Gen AI is that it's kind of it is by its very nature statistical. So it will get things right most of the time, and if the case is good, but it will have a margin of error there that it will need a human to kind of like polish the end result or some other heuristic to polish the result to be able to deliver you the perfect result if you want a precise result. The agentic flows kind of compound this. Like you start getting that 10% margin over and over again, and so it starts deviating from what you're trying to do, and you need to kind of at some point intervene to stop it. No, I want this thing, or I want that thing, or to create like smart flows that will self-correct, but even those have limits, right? You see a lot of tools that are using these, promising to kind of solve your problems, but when you go test them, you're like, this is actually not ready for prime time. This is software that is built in the assumption that in 6 months, the underlying technology will fix this. And they are probably right. You're gonna have like something that I think Cursor is a good example of this. Actually, Cursor is my favorite piece of software this year. It's so good. And it's also great as an example of how to build a great AI product. Because Cursor, the beauty and the quality of Cursor is not on its AI. Cursor is a UX success. It's how do you get whatever AI you want, you can select it from a drop down and you deliver it exactly where the user needs it, when that user needs it. And with the information to like feed the AI, that makes sense. Like it looks at the right files, the right pieces of information, it collects your preferences, and then it reads what you have been doing like in the past few seconds, and then it just guesses what you need.
And that's sort of typical of us because we're building tools for ourselves, right? So we understand like the best user we understand is the nerd because we are the nerds. I think that challenges when like understanding other users who are not nerdy, and that's going to be the next wave. So the first wave, I agree with you. We delivered lots of value. All right.
But there's one thing that I think connects these two things, right? The understanding of the user and the bet on technology, right? If you have a problem that you deeply understand and you shape your product to solve that problem, and the underlying mechanic way that problem is going to be solved is kind of modular, and you can use one now and another better one later, and you can switch them, and you design your software in a way that the actual shape of the software is not the shape of the solution. You're not doing it in computer constraints, but you're doing it on user needs constraints. You're gonna go the way of Cursor. Cursor, it predates the Claude Sonnet 3.5. The Claude Sonnet 3.5 is what makes Cursor shine. It's a fantastic model for software development, but it didn't exist when Cursor was built. It was a bet, and the bet paid off, right? But the shape of Cursor is the shape of the need of that user. So it will work when better technology is available for you to just plug into that shape.
Okay, so I get your point. I get your point. It's just betting on the future. So now that we moved into Cursor, I think this is probably also a good time for us to, you cannot have a conversation without talking about the future or lack thereof of software development. Everybody is panicking about this or excited. And I, to be honest, I flip. Like some days I'm excited, some days I'm panicking. Have you seen I know the impact I have seen professionally and at work. I am lucky. My organization is leading sort of like a Gen AI revolution internally, and they're enabling everyone. So I see a huge impact. How have you seen the impact of Gen AI tools on software development itself, whether it's front end or back end? But I'm assuming you live more in the front end building of interfaces.
Yeah, I've been doing more front end these days, right? I've seen things change before the Gen AI revolution, and I think the Gen AI revolution made the curve steeper. The reality of it is that we bloated the software development market a lot because we started seeing that having good UX is crucial. It's not optional. It makes a difference for people's lives. It makes a difference for competition, for markets. So a lot of and you don't need a 5-year degree to be able to build a good interface with the technologies we had available. What happened is, as always, costs shifted. Now you need less and less effort to build things. So you're gonna have certain demographic of software developers that were happily sitting somewhere in their breadth and depth of knowledge and skill and expertise that will start seeing those particular skills not so valuable and not so marketable.
So
Is that a,
you're talking mostly about the boot camp style software development that was very popular 8 years ago, where you go spend 6 months, learn React, learn it well, get a good job, build software. You're saying that is going to be affected more?
it could be, but I don't want to be so prescriptive of what exact type, right? But the will be a change. So it might happen that it's just like React is no longer the thing you should be learning. Like there's something else that smart humans with 6 months can learn a lot of stuff. This stuff can be valuable. It's not that, oh, we're no longer gonna need these people. That's not the case, right? But it's the actual body of knowledge. The body of knowledge that they learned in February might go out of fashion really fast. So when it comes to how you learn, how you personally evolve, how you look for what to learn, you're gonna have to be more dynamic. You're gonna have to be more proactive about it.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty good. So it's how you learn actually that is also changing.
Yep. And it's like learning is super easy these days because the tools are great. I
It
used to
has
tell people
never
that
been better. It
I
has
used to tell
never
people
been better.
when I was a kid trying to learn Pascal, I
I
had
know.
to go 20 kilometers to another city to a bookstore to like order a book that will have to be imported, go back home, come back a month later to see if the book was there so I could
Yeah,
now learn
yeah,
something, right?
I know. I know.
I was already kind of flabbergasted by seeing fun functions on YouTube and seeing, oh my gosh, it's so available. Everything's so.
One day we should reminisce about like the poor kids from the small towns in a world country, like learning computer software in the 80s, because that was my experience. I had to wait for my
And it's
summer
like,
vacation.
that's
I had to wait for summer vacation
right.
to travel to Cairo, 500 kilometers north to visit my aunt and walk 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers to the store where I can buy Computer World or American Science. Because American Science at that time used to have software in late
Ah,
80s.
I think I remember this.
I remember that too. So no, but it's interesting what you say, like the availability of knowledge, and I am sort of excited for my son, and I'm sure you're excited for your kids. Like they have so
Yeah.
much available for them, right?
But that's the thing, like it makes you a little bit, having more availability makes you a little bit passive about knowledge. Like it makes you, as the difference between book and TV if you're
Yeah.
our age, but it's more like TV. You don't even need to change channels. On YouTube you don't even need to do that. Like YouTube decides for you what you're gonna watch next, kind of scenario, right? And it reads your mind, the algorithm, and it's not
So,
necessarily for your benefit.
so this is a long form discussion, right? So I'm not gonna worry about ending it early because, like, if somebody's listening, they're probably bored out of the skull and they want to listen. Here is my take on reading, and I don't know if you think I let me tell you what my take on reading and writing. Mostly because I think I'm Egyptian, so I have an ancestral right in having strong opinions because it was an Egyptian thing. There has been famous. I'm not sure if it was Plato or Aristotle, but there's a famous letter from a Greek philosopher to the Pharaoh of Egypt, king of Egypt. They don't call them pharaohs; they call them the kings. So they call the king of Egypt, like the king of Egypt, warning the king of Egypt about the danger of this new thing called writing, because in his view that it will create the illusion of knowledge and not real knowledge, because real knowledge only happens when somebody who understands the knowledge delivers it in person to their apprentice. And in a way, it is correct because when you have a textbook and you have a teacher in a class of 35 students, only one of the 35 students will really get what's in the text, and the other 34 have the illusion of understanding what's in the text. And we know that for a fact, right? So if you look at reading and writing, like it started first on rocks, like we were scripting things on rocks, and it was a way of transferring information through time. Like I want the information that I put now to exist next month, next year, when I'm dead, because the life expectancy is 30, right? And that's it. And it was just the information travels through time. Reading and writing was information travels through time, but you have to go to the same rock, you have to go to the same place. And then once we had the papyrus and the papers in China and the papyrus in Egypt, now information can actually travel through space. They didn't stand the test of time, but they can. Now I have information that can travel from one town to another in the speed of a horse or a donkey or a walking human, which was not possible before the invention of that transferring of information. And so reading and writing was just a way of transferring information. And then we created arts around that way of transferring information, literature and philosophy and things. But reading and writing was just a way of transferring information because we couldn't record a video and send it. That's actually my view on it. And if you look at photography and movies and a moving picture, it also started as a way of transferring information. But very quickly, we built arts around them. I mean, we took pictures to take pictures of leaders and people and show others what people look like. And then it became photography and then a moving picture to see the certain events. And then we made movies and musics and we mixed everything together. And now I think we have videos that can be recorded and share and stays across time as long as we have electricity and go everywhere. So in a way, maybe reading and writing was like 5,000 year transitory phase in humanity. Like maybe we're
Yeah,
going
it's a limitation, right? It's a technology. Again, it's a technology limiting you of what do you actually want. You want a mentor. You don't want to read. You want someone to tell you the story, for the meaning of the story, for the connection that the story creates between you and your people, between you and
and
things.
actually reading and writing as a way of humans in general consuming information. If you think really about it, it did not become common until 200 years ago. Like how many of Earth population could read and write 200 years ago? Not that's like less than 10%.
One thing that someone said to me that I found very interesting was that if you start to think about how much the average person today writes, it's mind blowing. They
Yeah.
will talk in writing to everybody the whole day through their phones.
Yeah, yeah,
That
carpal
would
tunnel.
not
That's why I
happen
have the
20 years ago.
braces. Yeah. And I
That would
think
not happen 20 years ago.
and my body is not designed for it. I have braces on my hands. Like my body is breaking. My body is telling me stop. I am not genetically designed for this. Use that thing that blabbers. Move that mouth and
Right.
make noises.
But I mean, I think with Gen AI, going back to topic, that's very interesting. I think we go full circle because if you look at a video, the video is the equivalent of the writing for the image form, right? Is that
Oh, it's funny.
your
So
static
you're going.
video?
Okay.
Right, you're saying, but the information we're saying here for the audience doesn't change depending on the audience. With Gen AI, it can change. You can like one of the things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about the difference between like book and TV, and how the TV paradigm, like it can be any passive form of content, helps you consume easier but makes you think less potentially, right? You can have very stimulating video, but on the average you have to work for the images on the book, right? You don't need to work for the images in the movie, right? In your brain you work a little less. That's a difference in my brain, like my opinion, like that I just pulled out of my head right now, is the difference between the good mentor and the bad mentor, right? The good teacher and the bad teacher, or bad or like the more efficient, more caring, more dynamic teacher would make you work, to make you really exercise those cerebral neural pathways.
So you're saying Gen AI can take like this video and create different versions of it depending on.
And use the audience's responses to reshape the video as they go along. Ask them about what
that's
they take from the video, and then reshape.
So do you see a near future where the UX changes by itself? Like we don't deploy a new version? Like the new version becomes.
We have this now, right? So a lot of the Gen AI UX you see is React components created on the fly for that scenario, for that user.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. We just haven't industrialized it yet. Like we just need to find a new, I don't know. That would be weird. Like if you have a Python.
No, I think we if you go
like
to
if you have
things like high
Python
charts. If you go to things like high charts, you go to everything. How many children died in whatever year? Control by this factor. They'll create the controls for you on the fly. The chart, the levers, the filters.
Understand that. What I'm saying is like I think what I was thinking of is like UX for an app for a company, and the UX realizes that people are not finding this easy. I'm gonna change it. Like the UX starts to make UX decisions.
Or like it's Christmas, so let me do some Christmas
which is like content management exercise that humans used to do. And then the next phase was automate it, so it waits for the date. And now the next phase is like, no, don't automate it. Don't wait for the date. Just let that thing finds out. And then maybe an event will happen around the world, and then it will celebrate that event because it found out about it, right?
Exactly. Like before any human is alerted to it or whatever, or like something very, very monumentous happen, and it's bracing for impact because it knows the traffic is gonna spike.
That will open like a can of worms of what could happen that is positive or negative.
Yeah, that's the risk with automation all the time.
Oh, there's always risk. So, last words on risk. Every technology brings a risk. They used to.
Yeah, but there's the antidote for that. That's like people with knowledge and that is pay attention to what's going on to produce the scrutiny and the mechanisms to keep those things in check.
Every technology brings a risk. Cars kill people more than horse carrots, and airplanes kill people more than boats. I think.
We didn't do a very good job in regulating cars, I'd say, because we ended up reshaping.
It's an evolution, and humans take risks in order to move forward. Like as a species, I think that's our preference, and we try to pretend that we don't, but we do. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in North America. We'd still be in Africa and Europe and afraid of the monsters behind the dark seas, right? We always took risks for some reason. Thanks, Jason. Like this was cool. I'm so glad. I'm going to post this. I am so glad we connected, my friend.
Yeah, but likewise.
It's exciting time.
I could do this all day.
I know. Me too. I remember from our old days, we have opinions and we like to dispense them. It is so good to talk to you. Holidays are coming. This is December 2024. This is December 2024. Everything we say could be absolutely wrong.
Oh, yeah.
In 3 weeks.
That's to my previous point. You can listen as entertainment, but I mean, predicting the future is impossible. And not particularly useful. But you can think about the future and debate it. I think it's that is interesting.
The best way of predicting the future is working in the present, I think. It's always...
Yeah, it's creating it. Yes, that's very true.
I love it, man. It's nice talking to you. I'm going to say goodbye now. I'll see you in the new year. And thanks.
Cool, thank you.